Hey, good Thursday afternoon, everyone. State Representative Brad Halbrook here, along with my colleagues in the Illinois General Assembly, Leader Chairman of the Illinois Freedom Caucus, Chris Miller, and we have Leader Adam Niemerg, and our State Director of the Freedom Caucus, Colin Mosley. Welcome, gentlemen. We've got some live react here to a special investigating committee that Adam Niemerg was a part of that committee. We want to start out by saying this afternoon's live react is brought to you by Empty Witness Chairs and the Carl Clinic Auxiliary Gift Store. And with that, let's get right into the conversation. Leader Niemerg, you were there. Be 6 members of this investigating committee. Not everybody showed up. Give us the react. What did you see there at high noon today?
Okay, what we did today was the first meeting on the allegations against State Representative Carol Ammons, and we decided to present a letter to the U.S. Attorney's Office to just have a conversation about, is there anything that we're doing in this committee, is there anything that we're investigating that overlaps, or there's some issues with when it comes to what the U.S. feds are doing on their investigation. So we're going to send that letter in to the U.S. Attorney's Office, get that letter back, and then kind of see where it takes us. But I take this very, very, very seriously, because these are serious allegations against Representative Ammons. We see the Derek Smith case in 2012 to 2014. We see, Governor Blagojevich. We've seen, a speaker that was in office for 50 years in Mike Madigan. And here we go again. It's the middle of summer, and then we have another sexual harassment case against another representative that resigned from office. And here we go. Summers are meant for being in your districts, getting out and about for different events. But now I find myself driving to Springfield for another corruption hearing and investigation against a sitting state representative. So we'll see where this takes us. But these are very serious allegations.
Well, it's been a busy summer for Speaker Welch over there with the House Democrats. As you've mentioned, some of the things there that's kind of been going on. It's a kind of a troubling time there. But so the committee opened up a little bit late, just a few minutes after noon today. Chairman Tarver of the committee started talking about, he read some stuff into the record, had some different documents that they wanted to file it with the record, I guess. But what was interesting was the person that was the subject matter of this complaint, of the petition, Representative Ammons. She was absent. What's going on with that?
Yeah, she was absent today. Today was mostly a clerical day. From what I understand, her attorneys did reach out yesterday saying they weren't going to be here today because this was more of a clerical first hearing that we had to sit down, to send that letter into the U.S. Attorney's Office and really start having the conversations. But, in my opinion, I think that Representative Ammons should be at every single hearing. Mm-hmm. It is my hope that she does come to the hearings, because I have some very specific questions for her to ask, because at the end of the day, I'll be asked to make a vote on whether or not we should be moving forward to a special counsel that will look for disciplinary actions against Representative Ammons. So I want all my questions answered. I want her there. I want other folks there that were involved in this grant issue that she's being indicted for. A lot of questions that I have here. Right. So yeah, we're taking it very seriously, making sure I'm doing my due diligence. And at the end of the day, if she broke the public's trust, she needs to be held accountable.
Right. Well, and of course, this committee hearing today, this special investigative committee hearing, was a result of 11 Republican members filing this petition to call for this. It laid out the charges, but that's a result of the federal indictment that lays out multiple charges. And of course, the alleged is she's, these are innocent until proven guilty, right? However, she's denied all the charges, says this didn't happen and things like that. So, Chairman Miller, you've been quiet here for a few minutes. What's your react on what you saw here this afternoon? About a 25-minute hearing, maybe. What was your thoughts?
Well, I think that when you just look at the highlight reel of the allegations, wire fraud, kickbacks, misuse of campaign funds, obstruction of justice, and those are extremely serious allegations. And I think that one thing that we see is that the allegations are straight out of the Democrat playbook. This was the Madigan way. I mean, these are students of Mike Madigan and the Democrat Party and the Blagojevich Party, and one party rule and the lack of accountability and transparency. It's a continued cycle of corruption that we see brought to you by the DNC, because they all feel like they're entitled because they aren't used to having any pushback or any accountability for ethics or honesty, or bringing to you a government that is civil and transparent. And one thing that, I think that we can see in the future, I'm not a prophet, but I could see a task force being brought to you, funded by the taxpayers, going all over the state and letting people know how much they care about ethics reforms here in the state of Illinois.
Yeah. Well, Director Collin, I don't know. We've probably already seen some ethics task force. I know we see task force after task force. But your thoughts on all of what we saw play out? I mean, is this just the culture over there in the Democrat caucus? Do they have a class, or is it just kind of inherited that how to do these different things? What's your thoughts about all that?
Well, it certainly seems like like Chris said, they all follow the same playbook. And Chris might be a prophet, or he read the news this morning, because, Chris Welch has already come out and said, oh, we're going to have a working group. We're going to have a working group on the culture of the work environment in the Illinois House. So, like Chris said, we throw task forces and working groups at these things and hope that they stick, and it won't. And Welch has had controversy even this morning by some members who have declined to take part in this little PR stunt that he has put together. So not a good week or 2 weeks to be Democrat House Speaker Chris Welch, for sure.
Right.
And speaking of that, Brad, I want to throw this graphic on screen real quick, because here's what Chris Welch has been dealing with for the last couple of weeks.
Right. He knew the situation with Representative Benton back in 2023, but yet funneled over $1 million into his elect and reelect campaign, I believe. So, and then kind of participated in it, right, himself.
Right. So, this should be unshocking behavior from the party of corruption. It's almost a joke when you go around the country and you say you're from Illinois, and they laugh about how many of your politicians are in prison. It's not funny anymore, it's time to get serious about it.
Yeah. Well, when I've traveled, I say, they ask where I'm from. I say, I'm from Illinois, where our governors make our license plates. And It's not funny. You're right. It's not funny. But go ahead.
I want to give a quick shout out. Adam did a great job in committee this morning. He delivered some very strong opening remarks. And, we're certainly happy that the Freedom Caucus has Rep. Niemerg representing us on the committee.
Right. And we'll have that video cut up here, hopefully right away this afternoon, so you can see his comments. Let's go back to Leader Niemerg. There was an amended petition filed by the Republicans. Just give us the long and the short of that. Tell us what you can about what was in that amended petition that was filed.
There were certain counts that were taken out of the initial petition and then pushed with the amended petition, talking about the grant allegations against Representative Ammons. And the reason that this was done is it relates back to the Derek Smith case. If we have all the counts on the table against Representative Ammons, and we say we're going to look at each individual count that the U.S. Attorney's Office has presented, and let's say that we find that yes, these allegations warrant the additional committee. The additional committee then expels Representative Ammons from the General Assembly. She's running for re-election. She could just win an election, come in January of next year, and nothing that we've done as far as this investigation would impede that from happening. Meaning that she could be thrown out now and then just say, all right, I'm running for re-election, I'm coming back in January, and you basically have a double jeopardy situation where you can't take these charges and try her again. So by doing it piecemeal, we reserve the right that if she is not expelled from the General Assembly, which if these charges for the grant issue that we're dealing with are found to be factual through a preponderance of evidence that we're going to vote on, that is enough in and of itself to remove her from office. But let's say that she is not removed from office. We still have certain charges from the United States federal offices that we can then use next January or February if she wins re-election and is still a member of the General Assembly going into the next GA. So that was the reason behind the amended complaint against Representative Ammons, and that was agreed to today. So we will be looking at the grant fraud that's been implicated here by the feds. We'll be investigating that to see if there's any truth to that, and that will be what we'll be doing going forward.
Right. Chairman Miller, let's talk about the transparency of the NGOs, and that's what's really the subject here with Representative Ammons. She directed we believe directed a fairly large grant to an NGO there in Champaign County, and there's just a whole slew of situations in and around that. We exposed over $1 billion in NGO funding a year ago in the spring with the help of Jeannie Ives. What's your thoughts about all this transparency stuff, the lack of it with NGOs, and the need for the bill like Leader Freeze has introduced? And we'll start with you, Chris, and if anybody else wants to add in, we'll go from there.
Well, I think that that what went on in Minnesota has brought a national spotlight on these NGOs and the waste, fraud, and abuse seems to be following many of them. And I think that this issue that we have seen with Representative Ammons is the tip of the iceberg here in the state of Illinois, because I know that I had a specific NGO stop by my office that had been annually getting about $2 million a year to run an after-school program, but yet she didn't know what her salary was. She didn't know what her colleague's salary was, and did admit that there were 35 people on the payroll on this after-school program. And so this deal with Carol Ammons, where she directed grant funds of a local nonprofit to grease her daughter's skids with about over $100,000. I don't think that this is probably that unusual for a one-party rule entitlement attitude that we've seen exhibited by many of these radical leftists on the Democrat Party. And so I am really glad that this is being exposed, and I just hope that I would guess that the hits are going to keep on coming as we peel back the layers of the onion.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, we believe that a lot of these NGOs, the largest, and an NGO is a non-governmental organization, but we believe that the lion's share of their budget comes from Springfield, from the taxpayer. So how can they claim that they're a non-governmental organization when the money they receive to fund their operations comes from the government?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I mean, the easy answer. Oh, sorry, Chris. I mean, the easy answer is that they should be subject to FOIA,
right,
and other transparency provisions. I mean, that's the only way that you stop this stuff from happening. Is that if and I know David Freeze's bill says, hey, if you receive over $10,000 or a certain percentage of your funding from the state of Illinois, you are subject, at least for those operations, to FOIA and OMA and all of those things. And Blaine Wilhauer had a group in committee this past spring that was wanting money for some education program, and yet their social media was full of anti-ICE content and how they were sponsoring rallies and stuff. So there needs to be transparency for this stuff. We cannot have state grant dollars going towards leftist political activity.
Right, exactly.
Well, there's been a massive money laundering scheme that's been exposed for the DNC at the federal level, because they were using a lot of these entities to funnel money and launder money that ended up back in the Democrat Party coffers. And currently the Democrat Party is broke on a national level, and actually they're underwater because they cut off all these avenues to cycle money through these NGOs and then back to them. And so, who knows? Like I say, we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg on the waste, fraud, and abuse in the state of Illinois as well as other places.
Right. So, hey, as we kind of wrap this up, Adam, I want you to touch on your last, I think it was sort of the closing part of the business where you guys, there was a motion to send a letter to the U.S. attorney about having a conversation and maybe not to step on each other. What was that about as we close out?
Yeah, that letter is just to make sure that we're not impeding in any federal investigation that's ongoing against Representative Ammons, just to make sure that that we're not complicating the process. We're not doing something we shouldn't be doing that's going to impede their investigation into those allegations and those criminal allegations. So that's basically what that letter says, is just, hey, are we, what are you, what's the purview that we can find ourselves in conducting this investigation? Where are you at with your investigation? Is there anything in here that we need to watch out for, or just to make sure that everything's above board?
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that conversation goes, and then how the House committee, the Special Investigating Committee, how they continue to proceed. So I don't know. We'll kind of wait to see how that all shakes out. Colin, is there anything else we need to add, or should we just close out for the afternoon and ask people to always like, share, follow, and subscribe to our content? Any closing thoughts?
I think you nailed it, Leader Halbrook.
All right. With that, gentlemen, let's say good afternoon and stay tuned. It's always interesting. Thank you.